Get it right. Crocheting in the back. Ooh! Welcome to the Perfect Show. Y'all, I have such a great guest. Miss Honey Simone, a.k.a. Aaron Williams. Author. Philanthropist. I feel like you are just a coil of just infinite, interesting information and expression of art. And let me shut the hell up. Introduce yourself.
I think that was good. I'm Miss Honey Simone. If you know me personally, you know me as Aaron Williams. If you know my family, you know me as Aaron Williams. But to anybody else, I'm Miss Honey Simone. I just published my first book this year, so I am a published author.
Okay.
I'm a writer, period. A songwriter. I write screenplays. I write short stories. So, and I sing and I perform and do that type of stuff too. And I'm studying to be a clinical sexologist and a sexual nutritionist. So that's like my controlled creative stuff that I do. And then my free form is performing arts. I do burlesque.
What is burlesque?
It is vaudeville influenced performance style, striptease, theater mix, you know what I'm saying? Little live performance stuff.
Okay.
I do that sometimes though, like once or twice a year.
Word. And what kind of venues?
There's this space that I really love. It's a speakeasy, the Love Below. Shout out to Naya the God.
Okay. Shout out Naya.
That's where I've done most of my burlesque events. But there's like different venues around the city that do like more public events, but they do a lot of private events.
Okay. So before I get to the writing piece, because you wrote your book, and can you show the camera? Because I just
Yes.
very interesting art here.
A to Z of sexuality.
Why the pineapple?
Because I'm a sexual nutritionist.
Word.
So I'm really big on like the holistic aspect of your sexual experience, because it's a spiritual experience as well as a physical and mental experience. And in my studies, I've learned that a lot of things that we might have issues with or stresses about can be solved in just like simple things of like our activity or the stuff that we're eating. And so I'm just kind of hinting to that in my artwork, because some of my later things that I want to release are going to be more specific towards that after I give out this type of information, like the basics, you know.
Okay. So at what point in life did you become interested in, I don't even want to say sexuality, I'll just say the nature of sex in general? At what point in your life do you feel like you became interested enough in it to pursue an artistic outlet?
To be honest with you, I think it was just kind of like a collage thing that it just kind of fit. So like when I was in high school, I was like, I'm either going to be an entertainment lawyer or some type of doctor, like psychologist. So I was like picking between those two. So then when I went to college, I took a bunch of classes that interested me on top of like my regular like core classes. And I took a upper level lecture course, and it was like the history of sex. And I was already like kind of tiptoeing in the psychology aspect of stuff rather than like law. And so when I took that class, I was like, oh, I could be a sex therapist. Because I was like, if I'm going to be a therapist, I need a specialty because I'm sensitive. So I'm like, okay, I need something that I can be connected enough to that I can invest myself into it, so I can really commit to it in certain types of ways, but I don't need to be so attached that me working in this field because of something that I've experienced or something like that, I don't want to be traumatized and attached to it in that way. I'd rather be connected to it. So I was like trying to figure out a specialty, and then I took the history of sex class, and I was like, okay, this is cool. And my relationship with like intimacy and stuff, my whole life has been, I think, kind of unique. And so when I took that class, it kind of opened up another perspective for me too. And so I was like, okay, I'm learning how important information and sharing that information is when it comes to that type of stuff. And so it got me even more and more invested in learning about how to help other women specifically do that. Because I was also like an avid orgasm for women type of person too.
Right. Okay. So, what do you think? Because sorry, y'all, I had a little wine, and y'all already know I got to start it without wine. But what do you think? Like you mentioned information and like being informed. What do you think? I don't want to sum up something as general as like the biggest, but like, what do you think to you is one of the most eye-opening, I guess, almost misinformed avenue of sex that you know what I'm saying that's like missing from society? Like what's something that you learned about sex just throughout your journey of like intentionally learning? You know what I'm saying, that you feel like is kind of not known, that you're like kind of like damn.
I think that people are just realizing like sex is about like pleasure and healing. And I think for a really long time it's been weaponized. And so people aren't really enjoying like the true experience of it, especially like women, I think, but just men too, because I think men miss out on a lot of intimate um, experiences of ecstasy because we're conditioned to believe that sex is for this and sex is meant to be had this type of way and all these other different things. And so I think the thing that's missing the most that's starting to come up is the fact that pleasure is not like a bad thing, and also that there's healing aspects to sex, and if we use it in a proper way, then it can do its job to heal, you know what I'm saying, and create in the ways that it's mostly for, rather than it being used as a weapon or being used as something that drains us or distracts us or all those other types of things. So I think it's clearing up a little bit now, but when I was studying it, and what got me interested in female orgasms was the fact that like everybody's having sex around me, and like they're not talking about how much they're actually enjoying it. They're talking about all these other aspects of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's activity that, and I didn't have sex until I got to college, but it wasn't. Some of it was like a church thing, but a lot of it was because I just didn't want to feel like I'm sneaking to do stuff. So I don't like to sneak. I'm very bold. But but like I just wasn't fascinated with like having to sneak around with that type of stuff. And I don't know, for a while I was big on being a virgin and stuff too, but I think with more information, the better you can understand how you fit in certain situations, and sex is a situation that people don't get a lot of information when it comes to context. They're just kind of thrown into it. So expectations are skewed and all that different type of stuff. But to what you said, I feel like I'm talking a lot. But
No, I mean,
to what
hey,
you said,
that's what we're here for.
yeah, to what you said, yeah, I think what the idea of like pleasure and healing, like the purpose of it is creation and to heal. That's like the purpose of sex, in my opinion. So when it's not creating or healing, it is creating something. It may not be something that's positive or healthy for the people who are involved, but it's still creating. And if it's healing, you know what I'm saying, then that's cool too. You know what I mean? But I think that people are just now realizing how powerful it is, even though we give it a lot of power and use it in a lot of different ways.
Okay, that's a good answer.
I'm talking too much.
No, it's literally a podcast. If you can't talk on a podcast, I don't know where the hell you can talk.
Very true. Very true.
So I see you crocheting over there. First off, can you tell me the difference between y'all, my W's and R's slur? Can you tell me the difference between crocheting and sewing?
So crochet is just with one needle. Knitting is with two, and then sewing is with a needle with an eye.
I didn't even know that. I forgot about knitting. Okay.
So
Wait. So can you repeat that?
crocheting. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you know it pretty well too with crocheting and knitting too. But like knitting is with two needles.
Okay.
Then crocheting is one. And then in sewing, you can either use like a machine or you're using a needle that's going to have an eye on it. So the one that's closed that has the circle.
Okay.
And they're like sewing is usually more so for seaming. So like you can take a piece that you've crocheted or knitted and sew it to something else to like create an entire piece. You can crochet it together too, but like sewing kind of mixes. I think like sewing and stitching are like closer sisters, like how crocheting and knitting are close sisters.
Okay. So knitting and crocheting are kind of like micro putting shit together, and then is it like sewing can kind of be done on a grander scale?
Well, no, you can sew really big stuff. I think it also has something to do with the material that you use to like, cause I don't think you can sew yarn. Can you sew yarn? I don't know. I've never tried. I mean, I'm sure you can with a machine, but like with a needle, it will be difficult to sew yarn. So I don't know. I'm still learning about it. I'm not an expert on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I actually like you, the queen of sewing. But,
yeah, no.
But I guess what's more interesting is what you happen to be crocheting right now.
Okay.
Can you describe it?
I crochet dicks. My the name of my crochet dicks is crotch, but it's spelled crochet. I don't know if that's clever. Masculine merch.
Okay.
That's my tagline, masculine merch. But yeah, I crochet dicks.
Wow. Crocheted penises. So do you have any, well, can you show us what you have thus far?
Well, right now I'm making some balls. Trying to make sure I don't like to.
Wouldn't be a penis without testicles.
Can't. Well, not true. I do uniball, crochet dicks, just the shaft, just the tip. I do all of that. Well, in crochet form.
That is interesting. Why? Not even like, and I mean this like from a
part of me feels like, and I've been battling with this since I really got into it. I think part of it feels like it might be like an underlying like joking, but like seriously on like the penis envy side of existing with like just this thing that like because you have this thing in between your legs, like you just are allotted whatever experience. And so like when I make them, because I'm in a lot of like male dominating since I've stepped out of my like dominating areas. I'm trying to assimilate back into like regular world kind of for a little while to study, but also to like handle business, you know what I'm saying? And it's like a lot of it is just like a lot of dick swinging. And so it's just, it's a lot of like boys club, a lot of sword fighting, a lot of ego tripping, and a lot of not getting things done, but having the male and masculine conversation over and over and over again. And so I found myself like, rather than stomping on nuts, I just crochet them instead. It's like an averted, like I've changed my energy to something else and creating them and playing with them. Oh no, not my love calling. Creating them and playing with them in this type of way, in an art form. It's making me also, it's kind of humbling too. Like it's relaxing my temper when it comes to how I deal with men, understanding them in all these different types of ways. I don't know, in a weird way. Like I don't know if it's making sense. I'm a little lit.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, I
feel like I'm just talking.
We've had wine. No, I mean, but I feel you.
Are you following a little bit?
No, yeah, it's like
I don't want to be mad, so I'm trying to find ways to not be mad about it and make it not so serious.
Yeah.
And give myself another way to think about things differently. I don't know. And this
Yeah.
is what came of that. I also wanted to be
No pun intended.
Yeah. I also wanted to be in the Museum of Sex.
There's a Museum of Sex?
Yeah, in
Okay,
New
this
York.
this is why podcasts are great, because now you get to. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Tell me, have you been there?
Yes, we have.
Wait.
I have been. It was on my bucket list. And
Wow. Can you?
it's a wonderful place. It's a beautiful place. It's in New York. It's in the heart of the city. It's right in the city of New York City.
Okay.
And it's just a museum, and they put. It's like going to Fern Bank, but with like titties or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the first room that we went into. It was like a jumpy house. It was amazing. It was like a jumpy house, but instead of it just being regular walls and like regular walls and balloons, it's like titties, and you're like jumping into like titties and like jumping around, and then you walk into the museum, and it's just this whole spin on art and sex and expression and perspective, and it's something that it's something that I love, and I learned about when I was in college. And when we got a chance, we were visiting one of Amber's friends up in New York, and we got a chance to go, and I'm like, we gotta go. And when I went, I was like, I gotta figure out how I can get in here. So this is also me kind of practicing for that, because my end goal is to make huge dicks, just massive, like furniture size,
Crochet
penis as big as this room, like pillows and beds, and something that could be put on a display in a fucking museum, you know. So I'm kind of like, you know, probably shouldn't have said that. I'm sure somebody's gonna steal that.
No. Well, I can't guarantee that.
We'll see.
Yeah, my followers.
Let's see who gets to it fastest, motherfuckers.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, she's loosening up. Yeah, she's comfortable now. She's cursed. Yes. Okay. now you're loose. Oh yeah.
Oh dear.
So, to your book. Because very interesting title. A through Z
Of sexuality. Yeah.
25 plus types of sexuality.
And I don't even have all of them in there.
Right.
There's even more than the ones that I have in my book.
Can you just talk about one of your favorites? Or, and when I say favorites, whatever that means to you.
One of my favorites.
Types of sexuality, I should specify.
One of my favorites is probably I'm going to do two of them.
Okay.
So autoromantic is like probably one of my favorite, because how I break it down in the book, it's like it's sexualities, but intimacy is not always expressed like with just sex. So there's like a desire for sex, and then there's a desire for intimacy or romance. And so I have things that are like the sexual version of this sexuality and the romantic version of this sexuality, right?
Wow, okay.
So autoromantic is something that I like a lot, but it's like essentially someone who has like an intimate romantic relationship with their self, and then they essentially like it's kind of like being, in my perspective, it's kind of like being like poly, but the first relationship that you have, like the base camp is your relationship with self, and then you share your relationship with self with, you know, another partner. And so autoromantic is someone who has like this romantic, intimate like relationship with themselves. It's not totally based off of sex and desire. That may play a part in it, but it's not totally based off of just like that they just turn themselves on. That's a little part of it, but it's more so like they romance themselves, like they take themselves on dates.
Wow.
Yeah, like they're in a relationship with themselves, and then and sexuality is it's such a spectrum. Yes. That you can be applied to a lot of different ones. So like just because you're autoromantic, it doesn't mean that you don't have desire or attraction to other people. It just means that your first relationship is always with self, and also you're turned on more by people who are turned on by you. You know what I'm saying? So like,
that might define my black ass.
That's me.
That is
But that's how I am. So, and when I was studying it and learning about it, I'm like, okay, but it makes things make sense a little bit. So
yes.
so that's one that I really like. And then ecosexual is one where it's like outside nature, natural things are arousing and turn you on. So like being in a field would arouse someone, or a natural like physical thing like flowers or a tree. It doesn't necessarily mean that you use that to like reach any type of climax or anything like that. As far as like a physical thing, like you're not like fucking a tree. You can if that's your thing, but like that's not not the bottom line of it. The bottom line of it is like if you're around the tree, it's gonna heighten your experience or turn you on and arouse you in another different way, in a higher way than anything else, can. Sometimes it's the wind for some people. Sometimes it's rain. I really like rain. So like, things like that where that it is a component of getting you to an excited and aroused level. So
word. That is very interesting.
Isn't it so cool? And that's when I started learning about it, I was like, all this stuff, like when I was in school, I'm like, this is like a whole nother world. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at things in a perspective of like in all lenses, when you understand that everything influences everything, and like you can't have the physical without the mental, without the spiritual, without the, you know what I'm saying? All those different types of things. It makes it that much more fun digging deep into stuff that is so taboo, but it's stuff that everybody's doing.
Yeah, because that's where my mind's headed. Because in my eyes, like, love my parents to death, and I'm honestly like, on a wide scale, I'm grateful for how they raised me.
Me too.
I do feel like, I'm a little reserved by nature because of how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know sex is one thing. Like my parents and I, we literally never discussed, like ever. It was just kind of understanding, like, I just had this understanding, like, I'm just probably not supposed to be having sex. At least like,
right.
up till college.
It's not a conversation.
Yeah.
And don't be a girl.
Well, yeah, and
if it wasn't a conversation for you, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just imagine. And if you were having conversations somewhere, there were still safe spaces to a certain extent, even if the information was incorrect.
Yeah.
But like, anytime you're talking about sex as a girl when you're young, it's a bad thing. It doesn't matter where you are, who you're talking, you know what I'm saying? And even with your friends, like, even with your friends who like start having sex, is like in the back of your head, it's like still something that's, whether you fuck with them about it or not, you know what I mean? Like whether you like give them their props about it or not. As a girl, in your head, it's because it's a weapon. It's, you know what I'm saying? They make it seem like it's like a tangible thing that you can pick up and like give to somebody, and it is to a certain extent, but not in the ways that they teach us.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And though I'm not a girl or female,
I didn't mean to.
No.
Come at you like that.
No, I mean you're a woman.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I grew up, and not necessarily it being like a negative conversation, but to me, like, I never really talked about it, and so to hear like that there are this many sexuality types, it's like, that to me is kind of like freeing. And that's why I love having people on here just to talk about all things like religion and just like different jobs and stuff, because, you end up getting perspectives that you probably didn't have. If you shut the hell up for long enough, you'll learn some new shit every day. And so it's like, every day I feel like I learn a little more about, I don't know what to properly define it as, but like LGBT
TQIQ
QI.
Q.
Wait, why are there two Qs?
It's like questioning and queer.
Okay, QIQ plus, right?
Yeah. Plus.
Okay. And so that is already like one avenue of my brain that I feel like is like developing. And so now to hear this, it's like, I feel like it helps me understand myself more, because I grew up, I feel like, with such a black and white perspective and such a black and white view on sexuality, relationships. You know, that's a big thing, marriage. And now I'm at this point, and sometimes I feel like a late bloomer, but at the same time I'm like,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, but at the same time I'm like, man, fuck y'all.
Yeah. What's the rush?
You know, yeah. I'm 31, and I'm kind of like, I'm just having this kind of like wake up and kind of like pivotal moment in my life where I'm like, yo, I don't think my views and my perception of marriage, sexuality, all these things are the same as they were growing up, you know, because they were just kind of given to me. And so now I'm at this state, like, prime example, moving to Atlanta from North Carolina. Just being honest, there's a perception that Atlanta is full of people who are gay. And to me,
It's not a lie.
well, some
It
things
is
are
the
accurate.
truth.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing.
But to me,
but for real.
it's crazy. The biggest misconception is that coming from North Carolina, you just assume, well, I just assume, let me not speak for all people from North Carolina, but I just assumed that they were speaking about males. I've lived here long enough to know that, there's a healthy collection of males who are not straight, but when it comes to women, I'm like, yo, the population is crazy, like the amount of people, and it piques my interest because like I am fascinated because it's like not just in the women, but like I'm just fascinated in hearing all perspectives because to me, growing up, it was so faux pas and it was, you know, you taught it's a sin, even though I never really like, I didn't necessarily resonate with that. Now I feel like I'm talking a shit ton, but I didn't really resonate with that, but I just always kind of just didn't really speak on it. But now I'm here.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that we are multidimensional creatures, right? But because we as humans, we feel more validated when we're a part of groups, labels are extremely popular. And because we've learned that we can create words and create our definitions of those things and create our own, we're writing our own history right now. There's a lot of things that are popping up, but in my eyes, it's just sexuality and people's sexualities is just another conversation of identity, which is something that everybody deals with on a day-to-day basis. And sexuality is just a small dimension of that has multiple dimensions just within it. And when we understand that, and we understand that the boxes don't help so much as understanding that we are individual people and we need to understand what works for us as individuals in these situations rather than what I can be a part of and what, you know what I'm saying, what makes me feel good about not being alone. You know, it would fix a lot of different things, but I think overall we exist as multidimensional creatures, but we're not given those tools to curate that. We have to kind of go and find them. And everything around us is telling us this is a box that you fit in or this is a box that you fit in, whether it's religion, whether it's culture in general, whether it's the government and the state, you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of dissonance. It's a lot of conflict that's going on with how we exist on the inside and what's being told to us how we're supposed to exist on the outside, and it just trickles down into sexuality, in my opinion.
No, I would agree. That was very well put. I agree with that 100%. It's I think I really learned that when I was teaching. I taught 8th grade for a year, and well, I made it to spring break. Me and the principal essentially dapped up. This ain't working for either one of us. But I taught for a school year. Enough. Yeah, this is. But during that year, I feel like exactly what you said. Even though it's not about sexuality, it's boxes. Yeah. You know, it's. I learned this statement from an old friend of mine.
Sexuality is just the aftermath. Sexuality and this discussion of sexuality is just. I didn't mean to interrupt you. No. But it's just the aftermath of us creating these boxes for human experience and telling people that if you don't fit here, then something's wrong with you.
Yes. And that's, I remember when I started teaching, you know, they kind of updated me on like the problem children
protocol and all that.
Yeah. And you know, they gave me an update on, you know, this kid doesn't, you know, he's a bad kid and stuff. And then I got to know the kids. I'm like, they aren't bad. They just they might not learn well sitting down for 90 minutes talking about old European males from the 1800s. You know, and my friend, he gave me a quote, and I love the quote. He said, "You can't judge a shark by its ability to climb a tree." It's that funny. What the hell?
I
So
was not expecting that.
oh, okay. Well, yeah. But it's true, you know, and I feel like
It's true though.
I witnessed personally, like,
What the fuck are we even talking about for real? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
standardized testing. Just
Yeah,
one
like-
example. I'm not even gonna go down the teacher rabbit hole, but yeah, it's like,
no.
you're,
I'm good at school, and I don't think that it's fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that it's. I think it works for who it works for.
yeah,
People learn differently. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I totally agree. I'm sorry.
no, it's cool. So, not to get political,
Yeah, because I don't do that.
but just from a sexual standpoint, with the recent changes in some laws,
Mm-hmm. They don't say gay.
Supreme Court decisions
Yeah.
dealing with abortion,
Okay.
and just the current state of reality with cancel culture, like I said, laws changing, everyone having a platform and opinion. Do you think the future of sex is headed in a good direction? Like, personally, where do you see it heading?
I think that you really want to know my honest opinion.
You're not gonna sit here and lie to me on my goddamn show.
I think that if we don't figure out how to combat the weaponizing of sex, it's going to flip us on our heads so fucking hard that we're not going to know what hit us. In reference to the human experience that everybody's creating and documenting at this moment. Like, I think that the discussion of autonomy is really the subject. And like I said, I think sex and all of that type of stuff is just a mirror of and everything that's trickling down with just general experiences that people are dealing with inequality and abuse and misuse of the physical vessels that we're given and gifted. You know what I'm saying? So I think sex is like another thing that we use to kind of take the taboo conversation and distract us from the fact that the root of all this confusion comes from other places. And if we don't, now that we're having the conversation about sex, if we don't really get a hold on understanding and using it as something to create and heal, then people are not ready to see what's about. I've been in the dungeons, and I'm telling you, it's not the things that are done in the dark are not gonna be done in the dark anymore, and it's gonna be a lot of free range chickens running around. So I think that knowledge is power, autonomy is important, and conversations are important. But education about how to talk about these things, who to talk to, and safe spaces for these things, that needs to be taken more seriously than people trying to figure out who they are, because identity is a constant experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all trying to figure out who we are in one form or another. But if we get caught up in that conversation and not caught up in, protecting people, keeping people safe, making sure that people understand that this is the proper way to communicate about these types of things. These are the tools that you need if you want to have safe and proper sex, when you do understand that that's something that you want to do. Like, if something happens to you, this is a true safe space that you can go to. We're not focused enough on the tools and the fueling and the information, but we want to have conversations about I want to be who I want to be, and that's important. Both of those things are important, but I think that we like to get distracted. That's all that I'm saying. So the future of sex, I think it's up in the air. I think that we need to be careful, and I think that information is power. So that's why I'm doing the best that I can to learn and also share the information that I learn and make it available to people. Because if you don't know, you don't know, but life is still going to happen to you. So if you don't have anything there to help you find the words or help you understand yourself, then it can be a much rougher and harsher experience than it may need to be, you know. So I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in code because I'm scared they're gonna come find me. But
I mean, we're all gonna die
I don't
one
know.
day.
I'm making sense. I feel like I'm, rambling on about it, but that's all. Sex is powerful. It creates. It also destroys. You know what I'm saying? It plants a staple in a life experience. You know, whether you want to acknowledge that or not, good and bad. When it's good and when it's bad. You know what I mean? So, and that's just on surface level. So if you're getting into the deep spiritual metaphysical talk, what it does to the brain, what it does to our veins, our hormones, our actual blood, what's actually going on when we're engaging in those types of things, it would be a different conversation. And I think if we were taught more about that rather than, oh, you shouldn't, or oh, you should, you know what I mean, it would be a different experience for all people. But I don't know. I just think we just got to be careful. Information is power. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well,
That was a lot.
no, well, I would like to get into all the metaphysical aspects of things. Would you like to take a quick break?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah, let's take a second.
part one.